I have bars to go to.
Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. And if you're checking us out, it is going to be the 4th of July. Happy Independence Day. Adam's celebrating a day early. I am as well, but I still have to do the day job on 4th of July because we're launching our gigantic, massive salary planning. Some of you know it as Merit. I'm running it out there for 17,000 people. Yours truly has personally trained 1,500 people over the last week, so that's a good time. Adam, what have you been up to?
Not a whole lot. Just hanging out in the apartment. Got a new TV today, so working on getting that set up where I want it. But looking forward to going out tonight because tomorrow, or today, I guess, July 4th is my mom's birthday. So I'm obligated to be at her house and not out enjoying Baltimore. So going to take advantage of it Wednesday night.
Very nice. Now that it's a tough one because I've seen the pictures of where you are in Baltimore, and you're right down there by the harbor. So I'm guessing there's going to be some magnificent fireworks show that is not going to have your eyes on it unless it's on like a 45-inch TV screen at your mom's place.
Right. Yeah, that was actually one of the things that the landlord pointed out when I looked at my apartment was that I could see the fireworks over the harbor for July 4th. So I tried to get my family to come up here for that, but I don't think I'm succeeding.
Well played. Well, if you have a good friend or neighbor, make sure they take a few shots from the roof for you so you can say, hey, next year, let's
Yeah.
barbecue here. And it's all good. But you know what? We cannot complain about hanging out with family. Family's not going to be around forever. We may
Oh
not
yeah.
be
No question.
around forever. So, hey, there we are. I get it. I got it. My cousin was born on the 4th of July, so he is, not to quote the movie, but he's I forget if he's a year older than me or a year younger, but he always thought when we were little kids, like 4, 5, 6, we'd go down to California for a vacation, and we'd hang out, and he thought the fireworks were for him, and so did I, because I was, in kindergarten, so I was like, oh my god, your birthday's the best, we don't get this for my birthday, so... But it's a good time. And then one of my best friends from back home, his brother is also a July 4th birthday. So it's always kind of fun. We do a lot of stuff for them, or they do. I'm now on the East Coast, so I don't get to hang out there other than about once every 5th year when I happen to align my vacations. But again, new job, new duties. So there we are. All right, Adam, we've got a 4-gamer here. Now, this one, as all slates, are going to be a little bit interesting. We do not really have standout pitching, but we've got some guys that have been doing well. Now, I don't say standout pitching because we have Hyun Ryu, who's been pretty solid. He's going against a somewhat frisky Padres team. On the other side, we have Lance Lynn, who's pitching well above his pay grade. So we're going to have to pay for him if we want him. He's going against the Angels that don't strike out. That's not helpful. And then we've got Porcello, Stroman, Eflin, and Soroka, respectively. The first two are in Toronto. They did have the roof open on Friday night. We'll have to see what happens on Saturday, but it looks like it's about an 80-degree temperature. And this is a celebratory week in Canada as well because they celebrated their founding day, their Independence Day on July 1st. So I've been up there prior years for that because I lived in the state of Washington and we did a few family vacations up there and got the double fireworks, which when I was a kid I thought was very cool. And I thought they were celebrating the birth of the United States early a few times till I understood, hey, there are other countries. But you know what? Let's all look inward. Anyway, Adam, let's start off here. We've got, let's hit weather first because it's been hot. So we have 80 degrees, 79, 77, depending on the site you look at for Toronto. So I'm guessing the roof will be open. In Atlanta, we're looking between 80 and 85 at first pitch, 60% humidity, which probably means there's a chance for pop-up storms. So definitely be cognizant of that. In Texas, it's going to be a scorcher. We're looking at a 6 o'clock start there, 8:05 Eastern, but it's coming down into the low 90s, upper 80s after hitting a 93, 94 high in the afternoon. And then in Los Angeles, we have approximately 77 to 80 degrees, depending on your site. And they're, of course, coming down a little bit as well. That will be a 6:10 local start, 9:10 Eastern. Now, there are a lot of games going on. There is a game in Washington, D.C., that is, at 11:05. Now they always do that in DC on the 4th of July. They try to get everybody in and out so they have time to avoid the traffic from the parades and the other festivities. That's why they did the early game tonight at 6 o'clock, because they are doing fireworks there in the Nationals Park. We have one 1 o'clock game. We have two 2 o'clock games, and we have three 4 o'clock games and a 5 o'clock game. And now I haven't looked what everybody's closing in on, but I suspect at the worst case, you're going to get three mini slates. Best case, you'll probably get a nice grouping there in the morning. So that will all be covered on the DFS Strategy Show, which will be going at 9:30 on Thursday morning, 4th of July morning. And then this one is kind of for you guys that are traveling, going out to see friends, whatever. You're trying to get in a few last little minute nuggets as you head off to wherever you're barbecuing. You'll sneak off to a quiet corner, enter a few lineups, double check those who are in the starting lineups, of course, but we're going to break down the pitchers and hitters that you're going to want to look for. So, Adam, I will be turning this over to you. You have Rick Porcello. You have Marcus Stroman. We have a 10.5 implied run total here. 5.4 for the Cubs, 5.1 for Toronto. Talk to me about Rick Porcello, Cy Young Award-winning Rick Porcello.
He's not very good, but the Blue Jays are a pretty questionable offense as well. I would, if it were a bigger slate, I'd be interested to get to Toronto bats just because of how much Porcello is mediocre and gives up home runs. Obviously, with it being a 4-game slate, the pitching options are limited, so it's a spot where I expect to get to both sides. You still have a really cheap Vlad Guerrero. Lourdes Gurriel is overpriced, but that makes him an interesting option in tournaments because it'll be tough for people to pay up for him at 5,500 on DraftKings. Justin Smoke's in a great spot. He has more power from the left side. He's affordable. So those guys stand out from the Toronto side in particular. You also can get to Hernandez, Grichuk, Biggio. There's not really a lack of power here. It's just that they lack quality on base guys to string together big innings that aren't relying on home runs. But Porcello also, looking at DraftKings pricing, is the second cheapest pitcher on the slate behind Dinelson Lamet, who takes on the Dodgers. So clearly there is some merit to getting to Porcello. I feel very good about it because he's not that good of a pitcher.
All right, now let's throw out presenting sponsor Yahoo is starting their main slate at 4:05. So you are going to get Jordan Lyles, Jose Quintana, Jose Barrios, and probably potentially Tanner Anderson for Oakland. If that's what comes to fruition, definitely take the Minnesota Bats. I will repost what I thought on Tuesday night when those were the announced pitchers, and they changed it to Mike Fiers. But definitely consider Minnesota there. Nelson Cruz got the day off, so he should be fresh, ready to go. On the other 4 o'clock game is going to be Seattle. You got Tommy Milone going against, probably with an opener, which is what they've been doing with him. There's no way they pitch him. He pitched 2 days ago. All right, they're going to figure out what they're doing with the Mariners. It's going to be a lefty. I guarantee that. It's probably going to be Marco Gonzalez or someone else. But Michael Wacha is definitely going for St. Louis. And then the New York game, we do not have a Tampa Bay pitcher yet, but we are looking probably at J.A. Happ unless they decide to go with an opener, and then it will be the one and only Nestor Cortez, who pitched 4 days ago. So we'll have to check all that out. But again, Yahoo, you have some different options. Definitely look at their management fee-free tournament. This is, again, 1,500 people, 4,500 in, 4,500 out. These always fill. There's a chance it may not fill on the holidays, so definitely check that out. If you have not yet signed up for Yahoo, go to the Spotlight Hitters and Stacks article. They're free. They're on the homepage every single day. Third paragraph does tell you how to get the link and instructions with the promo code on how to get yourself $30 of Yahoo Sports Rewards points on your initial deposit there. That is your initial DFS deposit. And if you have been playing season long for cash there, that doesn't count as DFS. So check it out. You might be eligible. All right, Adam, circling back the games we do have, and I have to resort my filters. But Marcus Stroman is like, good with the ground balls. I don't know. Some would say potentially elite. His ground ball percentage over the last 2 seasons has been drum roll please, 60.5%. That is combined. It is 63% to lefties. That is across 450. Across 430 righties, it is 58%. This is Boston. They are good, but if you're looking for a potential trap where they may only score 3 or 4 runs, maybe even 5, but the chances are they may be spread out throughout their lineup. How are you feeling about Stroman in this one at 7,600 on DK?
Not really looking to get to him, outside of the fact that it's a 4-game slate, but it is a more difficult matchup for him, of course, than it is for Porcello at a similar price point. And he's just not a high strikeout guy. He does a pretty good job of preventing runs. And so I agree with you that if Boston is going to be the highest owned team or something like that, you can certainly come in underweight and hope that Stroman just gives you 6 quality innings and Boston underperforms. But I don't expect to get to a lot of Stroman as far as an actual pitcher in my lineups.
And that's a fair assessment. I mean, we do have to take 2 on Yahoo and DK at Fantasy Draft, but there are some choices. So you'll want to look at the popularity there, which is available on Osmo Plus, the subscription. If you have not yet signed up, what are you waiting for? Use the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, get half off any 1-month package that does now include the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. So check that out. On to our next game, Adam. We have the Phillies in Atlanta. Again, 82 degrees, 60 to 65% humidity. Potential pop-up storms here. We have Zach Eflin, who has been pitching above his head. I really don't like him in this matchup. Hey, Vegas doesn't either. He's just staring down a 5.7 implied run total. You have Mike Soroka on the other side. Good real-life pitcher, decent ground ball rate, favorable stuff. But Phillies might be turning things around because they definitely have talent to be a playoff team if they can just all pull their heads out of their collective, elsewhere. That will work out for them. Do you like either of these pitchers short of mass multi-entry?
Yeah, I think this is the perfect slate to get to Soroka. Normally, he's been on these slates where he's expensive and there are other really that give you a lot of strikeout upside, whereas Soroka is more of a run prevention guy that has good control, can get relatively deep into games, but isn't going to strike out a lot of guys. This slate doesn't offer that. So I think that $9,000 for Soroka is perfectly fine. Philadelphia has the second lowest implied run total on the slate at 4. I think that it's a pretty good spot for Soroka to be useful on the slate, whereas most slates, you're kind of hoping that he gives you like a complete game shutout just to keep up with the guys above him in salary. The only pitcher above him in salary on this slate is Ryu, who's not a high strikeout guy in his own right. So much less opportunity cost on this particular slate. Also Lance Lynn priced above him, but facing the Angels. So not a lot of opportunity cost at the position makes Soroka more appealing than usual.
Now, the one intriguing thing about Soroka is if we look at his 450 career batters, he has a 277 WOBA against lefties, a 260 against righties. That's 193 going against the lefties, 260 against the righties. His isolated power, wow, that one kind of caught me off guard. I like to pull tricks on you and Jake and Josh and give you the pop quiz. This one popped me. 0.08 against both handedness. Damn, that's pretty good. And that's a reasonable sample size there for Soroka. So I am intrigued by that. If you were going to choose 1 or 2 guys against him, because we only have 8 teams on the slate and you're looking for a little bit of leverage, it would seem potentially we would try to find some power. Harper, Hoskins, Realmuto, and Bruce are the main guys. I don't know if I'd want more than 2 on the same lineup, though.
No, I mean, I'm right there with you. That that's the part of the order obviously you'd want to go to. I kind of feel differently though, as far as not wanting more than 2, because Soroka doesn't give up a lot of power. So it makes it pretty unlikely that if he has his normal stuff, you're probably not getting these guys you're not getting these guys in a really good spot for home runs. The most likely way that any of them succeed is if it's just that one of those 20% of games or whatever that Soroka is not going to have his best stuff and he's going to get hit hard. And in that case, you would just want as many Phillies as you can. So I would expect that, or I would think that, optimally the best approach in a spot like this is normally to kind of be all or none.
Okay, and that's a fair point. I would guess Where the popular plays are going to go is not where Philadelphia is going to be. And as we saw with a couple nights ago, Pittsburgh coming out of nowhere, San Francisco deciding, hey, as long as we're out of our ballpark, we don't care if we're in San Diego or not. We're going to roll up some crooked numbers here. That could happen again. If we look at Eflin, his main weakness, of course, is lefties. His last 400 plus lefties faced 360 WOBA, 230 ISO. That's not great. However, against righties, a 290 WOBA, a 130 ISO. So looking at that and trying to see what Atlanta is going to do, they do have a couple of switch hitters they can put in the lineup. But they got Albies, they got
Camargo.
Thank you. Markakis, Freeman coming from the left side. Those would be the guys I would want if you're looking for a little bit of a bent, which one way or the other. Would you consider those guys as a potential trio?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
All right, along with Brian McCann. Let's not leave him out if he is in the lineup. All right,
yeah, much more power. Sorry, much more power to lefties than righties for Eflin. So McCann and Freeman, I think, especially McCann at that price tag at catcher.
Yeah, and that's what we're rooting for. We know that SunTrust Park does play up lefties a little bit more than righties. Not quite as much as we saw in that first season, but still definitely favorable to lefties. Our two evening games, it's going to be 90 degrees. Again, I said the temperature is coming down there for first pitch in Texas. 50% humidity, but it does not look like there's any particular weather issue. Of course, they are one of the places where there are fast-moving pop-up storms. I don't know that we're going to be fired up for these pitchers at their price points, but we do want to be cognizant of that because we only have 8, and here are 2 of them. You have Griffin Canning at 8,700 on DraftKings. You have Lance Lynn at 9,500. Lynn has been a veritable all-star at this point, but he's staring down a 5.2 implied run total. Canning, on the other side, got pushed back again. I mentioned that Jaime Barria was called up from the Salt Lake City Bees, AAA, to make the start randomly on Wednesday. But 6 implied run total for Texas. Do you have any interest at all in the pitchers?
It's tough. This slate's tough because you have a lot of really talented pitchers. Like I think Eflin or Porcello are probably the worst pitchers on the slate, and they're not bad pitchers. They're just kind of middle of the road. So it's a really tough slate because you have like unappealing matchups for the pitchers, but also just pretty talented pitchers. A lot will come down to ownership on slates like this. Griffin Canning certainly has the talent to go out and have a good game. If projected ownership has it really being spread around, then like if Canning's projected for similar ownership to Soroka, then I would just get more Soroka.
Yep.
But I think what's more likely to happen when you have Texas with a 6 implied run total and Philadelphia with a 4.4 implied run total is that you're going to see a disproportionate amount of ownership going to Soroka compared to Canning at the same price point. And that would make me interested just because it's a slate where I really think playing the ownership game is going to be important.
All right. The interesting thing about the Angels, they are literally fully healthy. So that means that we're seeing a little bit more Justin Bour. You may or may not get Albert Pujols. We've got the full outfield with Trout, Ohtani, Upton, Calhoun, which makes it tricky on some sites. Ohtani is definitely the DH, but that also pushes Pujols or Justin the Wild Boar out of the mix. And then you've got David Fletcher, who is kind of the odd man out, but he's having a career year. And wait for it, sometimes he's batting leadoff and sometimes he's not in the lineup. You've got a variety of catchers now that they have 3 of them that are ambulatory, shall we say. And then you got Louis Renfroe, right? Whatever. LR coming in. He's super duper cheap. That's the point we're talking about him at here. What do you want amongst the Halos against Lance Lynn?
He's been legitimately good. I mean, for years it's been that you want lefties against Lynn and that he's elite against righties. He's still been elite against righties this year, but really since the start of last season, he's done a much better job also of limiting production from left-handed hitters. And the strikeout numbers aren't really there, but the power hasn't been there. So you would still want the lefties. Obviously, the best lefty in the lineup is Shohei Ohtani. So he'd be my favorite guy here, followed by Cole Calhoun.
Yeah, Calhoun does sometimes get leadoff, does bat fifth. If it's against a lefty, he's still in there. More or less a career 250 hitter, but he does have pop both against lefties and righties. Just want to point that out because oftentimes people shy away from him and Otani against lefties, but file that away for future use. If you're going against Griffin Canning here, I think it's probably, well, Joey Gallo, he might be like good at hitting the ball really, really far. Nomar Mazara, if he's got out of his funk, he is solid. Willie Calhoun priced up, he's decent. And then Shin-Soo Choo just kind of does a little bit of everything, but he does bat leadoff. You do have a chance for him to get 5 at bats on our 4-game slate. You really want to start looking at that sort of thing. Any of the Rangers that you would like to point out for this one? Asdrubal Cabrera should be back from his minor injury. It's funny that he got hurt after he delayed his suspension for like, I don't know, a week and a half. Then he got hurt and missed 3 games. But what are your thoughts here from the Texas Rangers batters?
Gallo obviously is the best hitter on the team, but he's also expensive. You have more favorably priced guys like Mazara. You mentioned Asdrubal Cabrera from the left side where he has more power. Canning's been good at getting strikeouts against both sides of the plate, but he has given up some power with a 219 ISO to lefties, 236 to righties. So I think it's a really boom or bust spot. Like this is kind of the opposite of what we were talking about with Philadelphia, where if Canning has his normal stuff, he's going to strike out guys, but he's also going to probably give up a couple of home runs. So even if you're not full stacking, it's an appealing spot to be grabbing a couple of power bats like, Gallo, Mazara, or Chu.
All right, our final game of the night, we have the Los Angeles Dodgers. They are leaving, or well, pardon me, let me rephrase that. They're staying at home. It's not going to be Arizona, whom they are facing on Wednesday night. They will get San Diego, and San Diego, of course, will be traveling after their game against San Francisco into Chavez Ravine. We have Dinelson Lamet, 7,100 on DK. I'll check his Yahoo price real quick here if I get my Dinelson is. We're gonna have to come back to that one. What do you like here from the Dodgers? Because going against Lamet is there we go. Lamet is coming off the 60-day DL. He is, injured list. He is $33. He has been out after Tommy John surgery. He has made a half a dozen rehab starts in the minor leagues, but it's been a mess. It looks like about a 5.5 to 6 ERA there. Not really excited about him. Do you want to take some of the Dodgers against him? Dodgers, we usually like to go when they're facing righties because they have just a plethora of lefties, but they are damn good against lefties with their righty. Oh wait, what is Lamet? Oh no, he's a righty. Why does half my stuff say he's a righty and half says he's a lefty?
Because half of your stuff's wrong. I don't know.
Whoa, well played, sir. Well played. Let's talk about all the lefties for a moment here with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers are in a really intriguing spot. I hope that their implied run total stays as low as it is right now because they're coming in at 4.9, which is behind both teams in the Toronto game, behind the Braves, behind both teams in Texas, only higher than the Phillies and the Padres. But you mentioned Lamet struggling a bit during his rehab starts. In addition to that, when he was with the Padres in 2017, he had really good stuff, but he struggled big time with lefties and left-handed power. He allowed a 239 ISO, 364 WOBA to lefties compared to 141 and 239 to righties. And now you're just getting all this left-handed power for the Dodgers. So while the hitting conditions are probably not going to be as favorable as in Atlanta or Texas, I think that it's a really, really appealing spot, especially if they're going to be a bit lower owned than those teams.
All right, fair enough. And I see that I have mucked up my entire Excel spreadsheet with whom I copied in to face the Dodgers. So, oops, my bad there. But Lamet is definitely a righty. Now, let's talk about lefties, Adam. Hyun-Jin Ryu. Intriguing, interesting. We know that Reston Dave Roberts has not been resting his pitchers as much as he had been in the past. However, that is always a risk. But Ryu, arguably, And if you like to argue on Twitter, you can probably find a few people that think he's one of the best pitchers in the league. Would probably say he crests into the top 10 when it works out for him. I would have him definitely in the top 20, but it's a little fluid there, and a lot depends on matchup, ballpark, etc. He is definitely the ace of the slate. What do you want to do with Ryu at 11,100 on DraftKings?
I think he's pretty clearly the number one pitcher. He's the best pitcher on the slate. He's got the best match. The Padres do have right-handed power, but Ryu's just so good at limiting production. He has struck out 23.8% of righties this year, but he's held them to a 129 ISO and a 272 WOBA. It's just a good spot on a slate where there's not that many good spots. Obviously the issue will be, where do you find value bats to be able to get up to him? But outside of that, I'm going to look to get as much as I can.
All right, so just a little perspective here. With Ryu, his last start, 81. Hey, it was in Colorado. Come on, give everybody a pass. The one before that, it was in L.A. against the Rockies, 107. In L.A. against the Cubs, 94. In L.A., but wait for it, actually in Anaheim, 99. In Arizona, 104. Home against the Mets, 106. At Pittsburgh, 93. Feels a little bit more comfortable when we have these numbers. I would suspect we will see a 9 in front of his pitch count there. So intriguing from that perspective. If you wanted to dance with the devil in the pale moonlight, I'm guessing it is going to be Manny Machado, Hunter Renfroe, Franmil Reyes. Machado postponed his suspension. I think he served it. I've lost track of days. Tuesday was my guess. But he should be back in the lineup. Any nerves at all with Hyun Ryu as the top priced player on our our main slate on Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking for bats against him, it's those guys in the middle: Franmil Reyes, Hunter Renfroe, and Manny Machado. All three of them have big time power, especially Renfroe and Reyes. Machado, obviously, just a really good hitter overall. So if Ryu were to run into trouble, I would expect it to be in that part of the order.
All right. Well, that would make sense. Again, we have you covered for all of the slates. We've got the DFS Strategy Show, 9:30, breaking down everything. And then we have a variety of short slates. Not to fear, I will write up at least one team for each of the slates for the Spotlight Hitters and Stacks article. You will get the deep dive article from Adam behind the paywall, breaking down these 4 games. I'm guessing you're going to focus mostly on the pitchers because, wait for it, that tells us what the batters are that we want to take. Anything you want to add to our Independence Day action here?
So I probably, like, my plan would be to just write up all 8 pitchers and give the pros and cons of them, which, in turn gives you information about the batters, like you said. So I'll, give as much information on the slate as I can. It's but like I said, it's going to really come down to projected ownership, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen this. We saw this a couple nights ago when we had the unfortunately, thoughts and prayers out there to Tyler Skaggs' family. We saw that big slate go down to 4 main games. I believe it was last night, Wednesday, when we had was it Boyd and Ronaldo Lopez that got scratched. I had combined, they were 50% of my pitchers on DK. Lopez was 43. Boyd, but that was the same night Boyd went, right? Or was supposed to go, right?
Last night?
Yeah.
Or Tuesday night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had 9% of him. I made 40% that slate, Adam, because there were some wild scores. Tampa had some. The late games had some. I went to bed. So here's the fun thing. What do? Do I stay up and watch the games, in which 3 of the last 4 nights I have stayed up on weekend nights watching the games? I have lost 3 of the 4. The other 4 nights where I've gone to bed early because I've been having to do a bunch of stuff at work and drive my wife to the airport and all sorts of fun things that happen before 6 a.m. And I do not like to recognize more than 6 o'clock on any 24-hour period, but I've had to do that. I've lost. So clearly I should go to bed, Adam, but load up on some of these guys. The point being, if you are dispersing your lineups, if you are building them correctly, and if you are leveraging on things, even when stuff goes sideways, you should be in a position where it could help you. That will not always work. But with Lopez the other night, he was, I think, 20% owned on DK, 25 depending on your slot. I had him at 40, and I still definitely made money. The thing when you want to beat yourself up, what would you have replaced him with? Just don't write it off. What would you have replaced him with? Well, I think that was the Tyler Beatty night. Well, that night would have been good because he was at 20. But if you would have changed anything else, you probably would have finished about the same place you were because we had some unexpected stacks going off. Adam, when you're looking in the rear view mirror, which we definitely should, do you go, I know you go into detail, but I just want to hammer this home for people. You say, oh, this stack did great. And if you actually go look at the box score, and if 2 of the RBIs were to the pitcher or a pinch hitter, and there were, 6 doubles and no home runs, that stack wasn't as good as you thought. You need to review this stuff. How often do you do that?
Not that often. More often than not, if I'm reviewing stuff, it's trying to figure out what I would get in my sorting process in Excel and trying to improve the quality of the lineups that I'm selecting from the ones that I make in Cruncher. Because, like you said, just because a stack did well one night, especially in baseball where there's so much variance, it doesn't mean they were a team that I should have gotten to and I missed. It's more about, if they were a really low owned stack that had a lot of upside and I didn't get to them, why didn't I get to them? What can I do to improve that? If it's a stack that I was like, okay, they're not a high upside stack and they just happen to have a great slate, like the Marlins did the time they scored 15 runs. I'm not looking at it going, oh man, I messed up. I didn't get the Marlins. I'm not changing anything in my process, just be like in an attempt to get the Marlins the next time.
Absolutely. And the point being is, even if you think, oh, if I would have just stacked these guys, I would have won. Or, oh, if I wouldn't have just placed these guys, I would have won. Check it out. That's what Lineup Rewind is for. And that is a free feature on Fantasy Cruncher. But you also have Fantasy Cruncher Pro, which allows you to see what the other gamers are doing. You can sort that by their stacks, 4 3s, 5 3s, 4 4s, etc. You can check out all of the DK results, and that is something that is important. So you're going to want to see what other people were doing. So one of the things that Alex, you know him as Osimo, who's the #1 ranked gamer in the world, he says, more often than not, when the chalk hits, I'm not going to be there. That's going to be a poor night for me. But you know what? If things go squirrely, you're going to see me at the top more often than not. Now, it's not going to be, crushing, 8 of the top 10, 8 of the top 20, but he's going to be in the mix for the top 3 or a few in the top 10. That's something that's very, very important to understand for baseball. This is different for football. It's different for basketball. But as Alex says, if you embrace the variance and understand how it works and use the leverage, it can go in your favor. And that's one of the most important things we try to explain here at Osmo. And I know a lot of people say, oh, you guys just MME. You put in a bunch of lineups. No, there's a bunch of lineups with a lot of reasoning behind it. And that is the key. And you can do the same thing if you're doing 1, 5, or 10. And hey, 10, that's the max on any Yahoo tournament. So definitely check that out. We've got the great stuff to do it. You can't upload CSVs to Yahoo. Here's your little Yahoo trick. If you're still listening, you type in the first few letters of a player's name and they're at the top of the list, hit enter. They'll pop into your lineup. You don't have to use the mouse. I try to do that on the other sites now, which is frustrating because they don't have that, but it's available on Yahoo. So just a last little tip and trick. Adam, anything else as we get out of here on our holiday midweek action?
Just have a safe July 4th and enjoy it. Good luck on both slates if you're playing them. So it should be a pretty fun day of baseball too.
Absolutely. No Dumb and Dangerous. Yes, Safe and Sane. No J. Pierre Paul. And try to be smart. Be good. With that, gamers, you can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS on Twitter. I am at EMACDFS. And of course, it is Osimo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.